Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brand Innovators Livecast series. My name is Diana Dilworth. I'm the managing editor here at Brand Innovators. Welcome to the International Consumer Engagement event. Today is really special. We have a bunch of great marketers here, and I'm thrilled to kick off this event. We've got a phenomenal day planned. But before we get started, I would like to thank all the marketers, sponsors, and you, the audience, for joining to help make this event possible. Throughout the event, you will be able to use the Q&A widget and the chat widget at the bottom of your screen. We encourage you to engage with our speakers and other attendees using the widget throughout the program. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming David Costa. He's the EMEA Programmatic Buying Lead at HP, as well as moderator Alex Kukic, Head of Revenue at Within. Hi, David.
Hello. There you go.
Hi, Alex.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Great. Welcome, both of you. We're very excited to hear your session. So I will let you two take it away.
Absolutely.
Thank you
very much. Thanks, Diana. I appreciate it. To everybody out there watching, thank you for your time and attention. David, welcome. Good morning. How are things in Barcelona?
Thank you, Alex. Good morning to you. Bit half of the day for us in Barcelona. Things are great. Not so sunny Barcelona these past weeks, but all good.
Good.
What
well,
about Baltimore?
You'll still probably beat me in Baltimore, so good for you. Really appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity to connect beforehand. I think everybody's really going to enjoy what we have to talk about today, which is, consumer engagement, which is continuing to evolve and change. So, before we get too deep into some of the nuances, you're currently at HP. Could you talk to us a little bit about your journey? Not only, where you've been, what you've done, but also what you're up to now and some of the things that make you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So originally I'm Portuguese, but I'm living in Barcelona, as we just mentioned. I've been living here for 8 years now, a bit over 8 years actually. But yeah, my career in the industry started 12 years ago, more or less. I've been working in I've worked in different media agency groups, from IPG, WPP, Omnicom, always working around this space of digital media. Luckily, when I joined the industry, and I say luckily because I think it gave me a good background of looking at media a bit broader than only digital channels. But when I joined, digital didn't have the importance that it has today. So yeah, I got the chance to have that background as well. And I think one of the questions was, how did I get here? I think we were speaking about this yesterday. I've studied economics, management, so a fairly analytical space, but always loved the creativity that marketing brings to the table, and really loved all the work around brands and creating a brand, giving it a personality and some unique values. So that's something that always appealed me to marketing, when you have the chance to put your creativity out there. And I'm also a bit of a geeky, so I think I found a good space when digital started to come up, and when we look at these more technical nuances and around data, I think that's where I found my sweet spot then of a combination between technology and this marketing and business side as well.
Got it. Cool. Thank you for kind of walking us through that. It's super helpful. Everybody, there's very few people that, when they start their career, this is where they think they're going to get to. So each journey is unique and different, and appreciate yours. Where you are today at HP, internally, you guys have over 100 people across the varying facets of the marketing team, 40 people in EMEA, and 15 people on the programmatic team. And you guys have really leaned into the in-housing craze, which, for a number of reasons, tighter connectivity to the consumer, better control and nuances and execution against your first party data and the marketing data that you own, leaned into the technology and the tools that you guys own from your providers, whether they be, analytic systems like Google and Adobe, DSPs and DMPs across the board. Could you talk a little bit about, how you guys are looking at the world today internally at HP and some of the reasons why you've chose to build the internal team that previously would have been reliant a lot more heavily on agencies and partners?
Yeah, sure. So our process or our decision and strategic thinking around in-housing media is much bigger than just this focus on media, and I think you got it. It's actually around the transformation that our world and ecosystem is going through these past years, and the consumer or the customer is not the same as it was 10, 20 years ago. So a lot of it has to do indeed with the consumer and different business models coming up as well, direct to consumer, getting more and more relevant as well. So it's a much bigger transformation that the company is going through. And part of that transformation, there's a part that affects also marketing and media in specific, and there's different, obviously different motives or motivations to go through this journey. I think you touched a few of those, and definitely I would start with that one of having the agility to adapt to the priorities of our business on any given moment, and these constant changes that we are going through and seeing with the consumers. In some cases, we will have to just quickly pivot from one type of consumer to another. So that's a very important one. And I think others you touched as well. So the idea of having an in-house media team that is fully integrated in the company, working side by side with also with our marketing teams in the different countries, that should make us more integrated, more agile, with a clear grasp of what are the business priorities, and having those at heart and in our mind at any given moment. So those are key things. Then obviously, the data piece of we are a company that is rich in data. We have a lot of first-party data with the always or the constantly growing concerns, let's say, about the usage of data and the care that we need to have with the privacy of our customers. Obviously, the manipulation of this data, it's something that we feel more comfortable as well doing it with the HP as HP employees and so on. And finally, I would say then you do have more true media considerations. For a while, it has one focus of the industry, it's around transparency. Of course, also having this practice in-house, it does help having more transparency in terms of what we run, in terms of how our media dollars are used and how they flow to our partners and publishers at the end of the day. So that's an important piece as well. And if we realize all of these things, we are better integrated. We know our business objectives at any given moment. We are fast and pivoting according to those needs. At the end of the day, we should deliver a better performance, and that's what we have been doing and expect to keep doing with our in-house media practice. And well, with that comes efficiencies as well. That's
Cool.
a bit in a nutshell, mixing a lot of the motivations, but that would be it.
Good. I mean, when it comes to the performance and tying yourselves a little bit more closely to your consumers, right? And we'll talk a little bit about, you know, the historical B2B enterprise type of solutions that you guys offered and some pivots that happened in a moment. But would you say that, you know, the goal of your in-house marketing team, which was multifaceted, that you discussed, taking a step back and putting yourself in your previous agency shoes and now the in-house team that you're running, you know, do you think that this is something that can sustain, or do you think that it, you know, is just kind of a fad or a certain, you know, lesser duration of time than maybe some people think? I'd love to get a quick take on you there before we move on.
No, I can speak for the model that we have built, and you can realize once a company, a big corporation like HP builds an in-house media team that is now a global team across North America, Europe, Middle East and Africa, but also Greater Asia, touching on LATAM now. So when you build such a global team with, as you mentioned, we are either close to 100 or just over 100 at the moment now. You can see there is a big, it's not a fade of the moment it's a big and meaningful strategic decision, and there is a commitment there. So I don't think that would be a fight of the moment. And if you look at the deeper motivations of these, as I've mentioned, is a process bigger than just in-housing media, is a transformation within the company. There's other elements of this transformation. Is about really adapting to the constant changes and that we have in our market and business, and around the consumer at the end. And this livecast also being about the consumer, I think it connects really well, because we know that our consumer in the different segments that we touch is constantly evolving. So having this agility and being, let's say, on the driver's seat to respond to those changes, it's only, I would say it's only going to be more important in the future. So it's a movement that is here to stay. This is HP reality, though. I wouldn't say it's maybe not to every organization or every brand to do. I think that's part of also how the agencies are evolving themselves and adapting to the different needs of their own customers. There will be customers like us that are taking a big part of these media operations in-house. It doesn't mean that we are completely isolated. We do have an agency partner that we work with and rely a lot on for many different reasons. And there will be other brands that where that balance is different. It's just more, maybe there's a bit more strategic thinking in-house and more execution on the agency. Or I think that's also part of the transformation, and which company organization will find their model that works better for their business.
Right. No, I think that makes sense. And having the elements in place that you did when you did was helpful, right? Especially, with what's happened in the last 2 years. So talk to me a little bit about the transition from B2B to B2C, right? You guys are obviously a multifaceted business with hundreds of different product lines and offerings, to small and medium-sized business, to enterprise, to individuals like myself, so I can print my daughter's homework, right? And everywhere in between. So talk to us a little bit about how the dynamics of who you were trying to reach at HP kind of changed, and if you could tease out some of the similarities and some of the differences from the B2B market and the B2C market and shifts that you saw. I think that'd be really interesting, especially as we start to dig deeper into how you're reaching consumers.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not as much of a shift. It's constantly, I guess, as I was saying, pivoting and adjusting to the business needs at a given moment. And you're right. During these past 2 years of with the pandemic situation, our business priorities evolved. You already alluded to it. For instance, we have two big sides of our business, and one of them being print, with where we sell printers and the ink that is used on the printers, and different services around that. So obviously, during the pandemic, with the offices being closed, there was less need for office printing solutions, but also at the same time, a lot of people, I guess, like as you mentioned, you realized that you needed to print your daughter's homework as well, because she was maybe going to school at home at that time, or having kind of remote classes. So there was obviously a need there, a boom in the for the home printing business. So I think that goes together with what I was saying before, having that agility to pivot from one thing to another and focus our campaigns quickly on that, or our initiatives around that segment makes sense. But it's not a shift as such, because our portfolio being so and our lines of businesses being so vast, we will always be ending up touching across B2B, B2C. On our other side of the business, on the personal systems, so laptops, accessories, and all of that. There was also, there is, for instance, a category that it was already growing, and it's a huge industry. And with the pandemic, I think it's across the board. It grew even more, about the gaming category, for instance. Also, something that becomes or accelerates even more, I would say. So again, that's still on the consumer side, but it was also another area that of focus, or even more focus in these past years. And then, if you look, it's not only about like the let's say the segment where we would focus, but adjusting to the reality. And if we look more on the B2B, where if you put that together with the other situations in the economy, like we had the component crisis, where it's hard, actually. There's in our industry, in automotive industry, where we have demand out there and we want to ship our products, but there's not enough components for the supply to keep up with it. It means that, for instance, we need to pivot from focusing let's say our B2B campaigns in more what would be more sort of demand generation campaigns or lead gen campaigns, but to more let's talk about our brand and value propositions. What do IT decision makers care about these days with a lot of people working from home? Cybersecurity. So let's make sure that we focus on and put that value proposition out there, and our laptops offer strong solutions regarding cybersecurity. So at the end of the day, during the past 2 years, we still touched B2B, B2C. We just pivoted accordingly to business needs.
Yeah, it sounds like some of the things that you were able to garner were taking consumer feedback and needs and pivot them not only into your sales approach, but were you also able to push some of those feedback and insights into product to spin product advancements up a little bit quicker, like maybe on the security side, like you alluded to? Do you have any instances of where you guys were able to do that in real time?
No, to be honest, I don't think we no, but we have we do have some. I don't think that's part of the transformation, and I think that's kind of the ambition to be able to do that. I would love to say we are doing that and being able to do that already in real time. That's not. I would say that, to my knowledge, that's not the case. But we do have. But you start seeing. There's influence already, and there's pockets of those sort of things already, like on. So we are, for instance, on the print business again. Like we have a very robust subscription-based service now around delivering ink to the home of anyone, and that's about the convenience. And I think that we listen to, in that sense, to the need of the consumer, that we need, like shopping for ink is not fun. We want convenience. So that's kind of obviously things that are created listening to the consumer. That's obviously not something that happened real time. But it's happening, right? And it's I think having these more integrated teams, and part of the transformation that we are going through is about trying to accelerate that I guess feedback loop from the consumers into our products, make it faster, happening faster. Yeah.
Got it. How do you deal? You guys are in, close to, you're in a 24 plus markets probably across EMEA. How do you deal with the segmentation? I mean, of course, it's obvious. Language is one thing, especially in Europe, right? But how do you deal with different segmentation? Just outside of DCO and creative elements. How do you work there? And what suggestions do you have for the folks that are in a similar capacity here on the call? Suggestions on how to handle that segmentation, and also some watch outs or some easy mistakes to avoid.
Yeah, I think well, on the creative piece is I would say is also a work in progress for us, and again, part of the transformation that we are going through. There's also initiatives within this wider transformation that aim to accelerate or help that scaling, but while still be kind of relevant at local level. I think that's always the friction of you want to be fast, scale, be efficient, but you need to be locally relevant. Obviously, we have our marketing teams on the ground on the countries, and I think that's the key there, having the integration between a team like we do have that is somehow centralized in one place, but it doesn't mean that we are completely disconnected from what's happening on the ground, and the key is to have that connection. In terms of because there's always nuances in the marketings, the SMB space in Spain, it will be different than in the UK, obviously, and the key to get those nuances is work very closely with the local our local marketing teams, working side by side with them, and also leverage our partners. So I've mentioned that we work, we have these, a bulk of our media operations are in-house. We do have an agency partner, PhD, that we worked with, and I think still leveraging our partners to help us cover that gap in the markets is important, not only on the agency side, but also the publishers that can give us more insight on the specificities of the markets. That would be a key one. I think you touched as well on the creative, and how do, I guess the question there is, or how we kind of try to deploy creative at scale, but being relevant. You mentioned DCO. It's one of the routes that we are starting to explore, as not as much as on the angle of or at the moment of doing really clever dynamic creatives that are really engaging, but looking at it from an efficiency angle of trying to deploy and sort of localize or transcreate creatives at scale from very strong global concepts, but that can easily be transcreated across 30 plus countries in a region. That's an angle that that we are exploring. That there's other things that we try to do, obviously, from a more centralized or global team of experts like we are. We try to influentiate and make sure that what are the best practices are accounted for. And kind of doing this educational piece, if you will, and it keeps evolving. So that's why it's so important as well to have the experts that know what's happening at all the time. So influencing in that upfront piece of delivering on best practices is something that we are trying to make sure it happens. So from when a global concept is kind of developed, already accounts for these global best practices, so then it's easy to work with the markets for with their sort of localization of the concepts. And there's other things that we have on going. There's also a team, an internal team, sort of a creative agency team, internal, called HP Studios, that is being that is being built. It's in place in some markets already, and it's another route to explore, to see, to try to tackle this challenge. And I would say that's it. I will not pretend to be I do have a silver bullet solution here. I think I would also be very keen to listen from how other companies are tackling, because this is indeed a tough challenge to crack on once we try to scale operations from a regional perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think everything you hit on is super helpful, and I think that's also correct. Nobody's going to have that one single shot bullet. If we did, we'd all be better off. I have one more question, and then we'll drop to I see a question floating in from the panel. So if anybody else has any, feel free to chime in. Hillary, thank you for the participation. We'll get to you in just a moment. We talked a little bit about, the full-scale transformation of the business, right? And different parts and different components. And then we're talking about audience segmentation and how we get, to people across markets. Do you have anything that you guys are doing with, your first party data where you're, doing incrementality testing, A/B testing with some different audience segments that you have based on past buying behaviors? If you do, and you're using that, would love to hear, what that process looks like, especially from a programmatic perspective where, testing is such a big, important part of scaling out. I don't know if you have anything you could share there, but would love to. And after that, we'll jump into the Q&A.
Yeah, no, different things we have, we've been doing. We do have a good amount of first-party data from different things, from like on a B2B perspective, on sort of what's more account-based marketing, where we do have customer data of like who are the decision makers on certain companies, and how we can kind of reconnect with those audiences and make sure that they know our up-to-date portfolio and value propositions, from other things, from what games our let's say our Oman owners, so Oman is our gaming brand, what games do they play on their computers, so then we can kind of try to find more of those people interested in those sort of games, and convert them into Oman owners as well. In terms of testing, things that we have done in the past, so there's a couple of interesting ones that were actually run by our colleagues in North America. I think one that is really interesting is around the utilization of let's say third-party data to get to this audience that is so specific, that is decision makers or IT decision makers, and how we went from relying on these more kind of off-the-shelf or third-party data segments that are so specific, and into maybe let's go broader targeting might help us reach more of our IT decision makers, and actually going through these in theory specific segments that we find out are not so reliable. So it turns out that we were thinking that we would be reaching those IT decision makers, but it turns out there was actually more likelihood to for us to correctly target those by going broader. So that's one of the tests that was run by our colleagues that I found very interesting. And we have go on.
And sharing that across is obviously going to be huge, which is great. Cool. So I really appreciate all the feedback and the insight and the back and forth. A question from Hillary: what are B2B buying behaviors from COVID that are persisting? So what B2B buying behaviors from COVID are persisting?
Oh, good question. I think we are yet to see, but No, there's the lines are more blurred than ever. So the truth is that even B2B consumers now, the computer that they use is not exclusive for work. I think now it's even more blurred when a product that let's say a B2B audience is buying is going to be used for likely both parts of a person's life. So that line is very blurred. I think there are characteristics that will remain there, more from the type of product that these audiences might be looking after. So again, I've already mentioned, but I think cybersecurity will be a very focus on cybersecurity as an important component of a product that they are buying in our space. That I think it will remain critical, also because we will be a bit more mobile and connecting from the office, from at home. So that will be having a strong focus on that characteristic will remain there. Other part as well, or other parts, I mean, there's going to be more features that of course we are doing a lot more conference calls, so having the right kind of setup with good audio, good image, it will and we know that we'll have people working from home, others from the office, that making those two things or the connectivity will be very important. And one that might be worth touching, and this might be a bit myself reaching, but I think we all realized with the COVID and how we stayed all at home and how the world kind of changed, how our cities, the air in our cities got cleaner. I think if it was not already present in our minds, the topic about environmental issues got even more. I think we realized it even more. So we were seeing already that strong focus from the buyers, both B2C and B2B, like around making sure that they were buying products that are sustainable or from businesses that are responsible in terms of sustainability. I think that will remain the same and increase.
Cool. And then are you guys making a heavy adjustment there on sustainability for how you're developing the products you're bringing to market based on what you just shared?
Yes, there's it's one of the main focus of the company. So a lot of our products already utilize recycled plastic. We have strong objectives in terms of the making our products as much sustainable as possible, and how we are reducing our emissions and want to be carbon neutral. So it's a strong focus on the company. Also, as media practice is something that we are actually looking on, and how also our from our small part of the business, let's say, how can we also influence this agenda and perhaps look at what are the policies of our partners in terms of sustainability, and maybe in the near future, if we have to make a choice between partners that we work with, this kind of sustainability practices or index will also influentiate or have an influence in our decision.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time in your afternoon, David. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good discussion. I think everybody enjoyed it. For those wondering if you have any other questions for David, david.cost@hp. You can reach me, alex@within.co. If there's anything else. But this has been a fun discussion. And Diana, thanks for the opportunity. So back to you.
Thank you both so much. That was a great discussion. I love hearing about what HP is doing for sustainability and cybersecurity. It's definitely conversations I think we're all going to be watching closely over the next few years. So thank you both so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Up next, we have, speaking of conversations we're going to be having about, what's new, what's coming. We have Andreas Stockhondes, who's the senior marketing manager at CoinGate, a crypto company. So we'll get to be hearing about what they are doing with their consumer engagement. Please join me in welcoming Andreas.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Andreas.
Hi there.
How are you? Good.
Hi, Diana. I'm fine. Really excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here with us. We're happy to have you. So tell us where you're calling in from.
I'm calling you from a beautiful city, Vilnius. That's Lithuania, the Baltic states. So as I am aware, you are far away from us, right?
I'm in Switzerland personally, but our team also stretches from Switzerland all the way to Los Angeles. So we're all over the place.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, I went through the episodes of your podcast, and I was really fascinated what kind of high caliber of speakers you have on your podcast. Oh, so I hope to bring something interesting to you and to your audience.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're excited to have you.
Yeah, cool.
So tell us about yourself. Tell us about your role at CoinGate, how long you've been there, and what you're in charge of, how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a general manager of CoinGate. I'm responsible for marketing things down there. Basically, I do not have very specific focus area in marketing where I focus. So I'm generally looking into various channels and try to figure out which channel might give us the biggest growth. So mixing all the channels and tactics and seeing what comes out of it, it's what I love to do. And since joining the CoinGate, I really fell in love with the crypto and all that market, and especially the crypto users. That's really bizarre animals and bizarre personas, I would say. It's really challenging, hard to do the marketing. If there is a saying, one of the traits of crypto is to help people to access regular finances for unbanked people. So from the marketing perspective, I would say that to work in crypto, it means to market to unmarketable. So it means the regular consumers, they cannot be reached regularly as we are used to with other brands. So a crypto user is much more privacy oriented. He hides himself as possible, not only using ad blockers, but using VPNs, changing locations, using disposable emails. So that's the area where the marketeers in crypto are, what kind of challenges are facing. Wow. So these things, fascinated me. I joined the CoinGate, and what I love about the CoinGate that it's a mission-driven company. We are in the crypto industry almost for a decade already. So we've been there from the very beginning of the crypto existence. And our bold mission is to increase crypto adoption worldwide. So we're focusing into the increase of crypto usability as such. So, and our main product proposition is crypto payment gateway. So we let customers, merchants of all kinds, to accept crypto payments as the payment option for their products and services. So Diana, if you are selling anything with your podcast, maybe you have a merch store, you after this call we can have a chat, and you could be one of the first podcasts accepting payments with the crypto.
Wow, that would be fascinating. So tell me, it's obviously clearly a challenging marketplace to be in versus, say, a consumer brand, or a retailer or something like that. Can you talk about how you're driving consumer engagement? And if money was no object, like what would you buy for your marketing? What would you build, and what would you get rid of?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I think like there is a special triangle in the marketing. Like there are three corners of that triangle, which one is like CEO who supports marketing, another is a great product, and the third one is a great budget. And for this, you can only select two of them. So I think that CoinGate has all of those things, but they change depending on the topic we're talking about or the activity we're thinking of. So we do not lack of the budget if we see the cost is necessary to introduce, and we get the support and so on. But so far, like all the growth of the CoinGate happened, I would say, like smart in a small steps and smartly. We've been in the market for a long period of time, and our product grew up with the market itself. So when the market was booming, when the market was in its infancy, CoinGate as well was being run through one room. But then in 2018, when the market started to boom, CoinGate grew 35 times compared. So we just exploded after several years of operations. CoinGate just exploded in 1 year. And right now it kind of feels like the company is a decade years old, and still like it feels that it was being established yesterday. So there is a lot of, agility, a lot of hands-on items. So the structure of the company is very, very flexible. But yeah, talking about the things, what would I do if there would not be a budget? That won't be any limitations. I would really like to build up a consumer brand, right? CoinGate at the moment, as I mentioned, we grew along with the market, and everything we did so far was like from high calculations, what sort of performance we want to achieve from the market. So we were more orientating to performance actions. If we're doing a PR, we're doing it by very tailoring and crafting the message precisely and bring it to the right ears to spread the message. But like what the consumer brands they has this boldness to go with the NBA teams, with all sorts of sports athletes and sponsor them. So I do not know what's the feel is to work within such a high level of the advertising. So some of the crypto companies went that way, like Crypto.com, sponsoring NBA teams, like FTX as well. Like Crypto.com also, I know, works with the UFC and doing a sponsorship. So I would be really keen to see what it's like to do a sponsorship and what is like the actual outcome of it. Because sometimes you put your cross fingers and think that this sort of event will bring lots of new users, lots of traffic to your websites. And after this sort of PR activity, which actually went through quite well, you see that conversions stayed in that level as it was. So I would really like to see what the impact does the high-level sponsorship and how it kind of could evolve the functional brand, which are based on functional attributes of the brand, brings to the consumer brand. That would be cool.
Absolutely. You make a really good point, because I know we saw at the Super Bowl, for instance, Crypto.com, FTX. This was the first time we saw crypto brands advertising in such a huge spotlight, such expensive media. do you think the consumer demand is there, or do you think that they're building it? And now that crypto is becoming mainstream, or at least is, on the front page of mainstream newspapers, do you think consumers are demanding it? Is the consumer landscape changing, or are you still the main customers, the kind of people you've worked with the last 10 years who are hiding and, wanting to be able to do secret transactions and things like that?
Oh, they are hiding more and more. I think that's where the consumer trend is happening. And before joining this call, I heard one of your speaker telling that cybersecurity is going to be one of the top topics in the market. So I think like the crypto consumer at the moment is ahead of its time, that they are the future, how the internet will go to be portrayed and used. And what we're facing right now with the crypto industry and its engagement with its consumers, I think later on other industries will follow. So the consumers will be ad blocking would be a regular thing, and all like advertising economy most likely will be changed, that consumers will give their permission to do to see the advertisement in exchange of actual money. So that's how some of the applications are working right now. There is a good example like Brave browser, where it is ad blocker native. You can switch off all the ads using this browser, but in exchange, you are giving a permission for that Brave browser to show the advertising. And depending on your engagement with those ads, you're being paid by basic attention tokens. So you're being paid by actual dollars, right? So I think this new level of partnership between and connection between the brands and consumers are going to happen quite soon, and it's happening right now.
That's such an interesting point, that the attention is becoming this thing that advertisers are literally paying for. How, in this way, in this new era, as you see it, what does consumer engagement look like? Is it offering a value exchange?
Well, can you make a bit like broaden up the question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So as you said, there's literally, to engage and watch your ads or engage with your brand online, consumers will expect something back, like coins or money or something to that effect, maybe a free service. Do you think that this will be happening more and more as brands look to, engage consumers? What will consumer engagement look like when this is the scenario?
It's hard to portray, but I think the marketing overall will become, and it is becoming more fractal. Like the customer journey, which was like several years ago, was quite linear and could be traced back to the every step of what the consumer was doing, online, offline. You can track every click on the website, look through their sessions, and so on, see the heat maps. So the capabilities were limitless. So right now where we are moving, that this customer journey is getting some black boxes, some areas where you cannot see, and it's depending on the consumer to decide whether he wants to show this area or not. So I think this, which I mentioned, like paying for customer engagement is going to be a thing to reveal those black boxes and see what's happening in that area. So it's more like personal one-to-one connection with a brand, and yeah. So that's the way how I may see it happening.
That's interesting. Going back to crypto, as it becomes more mainstream, how are you differentiating your brand at CoinGate? Obviously, you've been around for 10 years. How are you differentiating yourself in the marketplace when all these new crypto brands are coming to consumers? Many consumers are not familiar with these brands. So what does your marketing look like to stand out to new consumers?
Yeah, like the cryptocurrency going mainstream is a good thing. That's the thing we are working on, and other companies doing their thing to increase that. It's just makes us happy because that's our main mission of the company. And is that if the market is growing, our company also is growing together with it. And for a long period of time, for a Congate, I believe, and overall, like for a crypto market, differentiating was not being based on the functions the company was providing. So it's more like functional attributes of the brand, which was more important, because the like early market and like innovators and the early users of the blockchain was mathematicians and geeks. So they could do their own homework in order to understand some aspects of the product, and they were against the brand's engagement with the customers, because as I mentioned, the ad blockers, they're hiding themselves, etc., because they don't want for brands to contact with them, right? So this functional feature was an asset that the brands were very strictly just saying what they actually are, what can they do with those products. But at the moment, I think the market also shifting, and we're getting into the position where new customer audiences are coming to the crypto market, which are more educated. They gathered the experience from before, and there are plenty of educational content across the board what they can do with the brand. So sometimes you just need to think how to scale up your product in order to meet the customer needs. And another part is which comes people who does not know much about it, but they're driven by this FOMO factor, and they just want to get into the crypto and do something with that. So I would say our situation is yet we are still in that functional level of the messaging, and we are moving slowly towards making this consumer brand more appealing. So, and from the product point of side, it's not only about brand as such, but also we're seeing that as we've been for ages in that market, consumer base grew, and our brand name awareness increased quite a lot. We're quite well-known crypto company in the world and in crypto market. So we just see that we need to target new audiences of customers, right? So we were basically previously focusing on B2B products. Right now, we see that we are in need of B2C product stream because those customers find us anyway. So like looking from the channel, from our user segments, we have much higher traffic from B2C customers from B2B, but our whole business and revenue comes from B2B. So B2C is just in infant stage right now, and this is where we're heading. And when we will expand and nurture our B2C products, I think we're going to be ready for a higher advertising campaigns and sponsorship to be more closer to consumer.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that many of your consumers, at least so far, maybe some of the B2B, are looking for education historically, or maybe doing their own research, perhaps in places like Reddit or every other places on the internet. I'm curious what channels you think are important to the brand to help develop this consumer side. Is it content marketing? Is it, search? What does that look like to you? Which channels?
Mm-hmm. Well, these times when the consumers are so lazy, it's really hard to get without Google search. Like search engine optimization, I think importance of it's in its highest, and it will be even more in the future. People are lazy to do their research, and overall, I just remember looking from my file organizing in my computer. Like several years ago, all my folders were well organized. I was putting according some categories, lots of folders and so on. Right now, it's just a mess. Every time I went to find a document, I'm using a search bar. And what I talked with my colleagues around, they're doing all the same, it's just a trend that we as people and consumer as well followed. They just got lazy, and SEO is really a big thing to do. Like it's more than a half of the business. So somewhere anyway, like a search engine in the all funnel of the purchase happens. It's either it's an awareness chase or consideration, or it's at the very last step of the purchase. So yeah, like SEO channel for us is huge importance, and we're putting a lot of effort. That maybe that's why we had the biggest successes over there. And I would also like give a prop to PR. It really helps out to build the reputation, and especially in crypto market, reputation is like very important, because there are a lot of scamming. Like the industry is yet evolving. There is big the dynamic. It's sometimes it's hard to choose this topic. You need to do a research in order to get onboarded, and there are some bad people who tries to use this into their advantage. So reputation is important, and that is being done through PR, mentioning, to doing some campaigns, being mentioned in some reputable sources. So that helps us as well. So that's the channel you cannot miss. Maybe it does not bring conversions, but overall, it's a way towards the success.
Sure, absolutely. I know PR is very big for building brand awareness, and for an industry that is still so young and growing, obviously brand awareness is probably huge. Can you share any examples of successful campaigns or strategies or tactics that you've used over the last year that helped engage consumers?
Well, yeah. What would you notice? Like, as you may understand from my beginning of the talk, I'm kind of giving props to organic traffic. So the paid advertising is something where consumers tries to hide themselves. So your ads are not going to be found well in a crypto. So organic works well. So this is like SEO, and also like social media organic also is a good thing. So what we kind of figure out, but something which works for us is looking into the crypto market as different nest of communities. So every token, when the consumer jumps into the crypto, basically he has various, needs why he is doing that. But usually he follows one or another crypto token. And he browses the information, what's going on about it. He subscribes for newsletters and so on, follows the specific people who are talking about that specific token information. So that's the essence for us to spread our messaging is through social media. So you want to track the specific spokespeople in social media who is speaking on that or another. So kind of influential people who spoke on some of the crypto tokens, and try to engage with them. Think of the message which would bring their attention, and they would spread it. So, and when this message is being spread, you would see that there is just momentum builds up, and this message just goes through from social media to articles to media sources, and that's how you're getting. Mm-hmm. Also, like from CIO perspective, as I said, we're quite strong down there. We did quite some bets in history. So one of them was like we have huge websites, lots of information, lots of various products. So as I mentioned, we have a B2B product line, which is the big product out of us, but also we're building B2C products. And for B2C products, we have a lot of pages, and we just saw that Google bot takes a lot of time to crawl our web pages. So, and the crawl budget is very limited. So we use the Pareto principle, 80% to 20%. So we just took those pages which are the most important to us and that brings the biggest value, and we let them be indexed. And the rest 80% of pages we hide it from the Google crawl budget. So what it happened, it means that Google spent a bit of more, Google bots spend more time on the things which really matter and he really had time to collect all necessary information. And actually, after that bet, we saw like quite significant growth in SEO traffic. That was something
Very
good.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. This combination of influencer, PR, search. Have there been any shifts in consumer behavior over the past year that have forced you to modify or change your business goals? And how, if so, like how are you measuring the success?
Well, yeah, you know, we are doing. We are in the same boat as the rest of the marketers. So there is a technology shift, and specifically with some of the big advertising media channels, which like we're going towards giving more privacy in the hands of the consumer. So like IO changes, right? That impacted us a bit. But yeah, maybe these things are not the biggest impacts for us, because crypto organizations always were having some restriction policies, and we are not an exception. So like Facebook advertising just opened up recently for us. It was banned for previously. With the Google advertising as well, we're still experiencing some prohibitions. Twitter we were using previously, but it was banned just recently for us. So like crypto market through big organization is being treated not yet in the same level as other industries. So we have not only tried to work better to optimize our messaging, you know, conversions, but also we need to fight those giant advertising companies in order to hack them, to treat them, to trick them that our advertisements would run down there. So this is just one of the example. And another is like consumers move as well of their behavior. And as I mentioned before, that they just happens to be hard to find because they hide themselves. So it is that we try to measure everything by the end of the conversion. So I mean, some of the channels I simply does not work. I don't know, like email marketing. Previously, everything was very convenient to see, like open rates, click rates, and etc. You can see everything, and at one point of the time, you don't see open rates, which was like one of the major distinguisher whether your content was really good. Right now, we're ending up just by the click rates, so we're shifting towards more to the final conversion stage. So like awareness level is just blind, you know, getting more blind, and the last conversion click is what actually matters the most.
Very interesting. Switching gears here a bit, CoinGate recently helped fund Ukraine using a special fundraising of cryptocurrency. Can you tell us about these efforts and how you are engaging consumers with the company and to engage in the cause?
Oh yeah. Well, that's still like hot topic, and we're 500 kilometers away from Kiev. So it's. I remember that time when this situation escalated. You know, it was a Friday, and for a full week, our colleagues and me, including, was not able to concentrate and work normally. It was that of the shock. You know, you cannot look from news media sources and you were hooked down there, you know, like other things were happening, depression, etc. You know, all that thing. So we quickly wanted also to be involved in that and how we can help out to that cause. So we noticed that Ukraine official sources are collecting some funds. So just in one day, I don't know, it was like 4 hours of the effort, we were able to create a payment gateway for Ukraine National Bank to collect funds and donations for their cause. And I don't know, like through the first week, we have collected 10,000 euros in crypto donations. And some of those communities were more active, others But from us, it was very clear from the very beginning, and especially from our CIO and the founder, that we want to help out for this cause. And companies are operating in a social life, and they should act according to that. And it's not on a matter on the level of the brand, it's on the level of all the stakeholders, founders, employees, which this actions needs to be taken care of. Sometimes it's just really to have this double standards, when the company, due to PR reasons, communicate one, but employees or the stakeholders do another thing, is just not nice. And I think it really devaluates the brand value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for us, it was very fine that all of the company was on the same lines, that we want to support this, and in agile manner, we did something we can really do, despite of course, like personal donations and our company employees are helping Ukrainians by finding the place where to stay, so lending their own flats to give Ukrainians to flee from the terror, what's happening. So that's cool. So I would encourage other companies, to think it not as such situations and social responsibility, not as an asset for a brand, but more like for a dedication to the social life where they are participating.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. It's such a good point. Obviously, you guys just being neighbors and being close by and really activating and trying to help the community there in the Ukraine. Was this your first cause marketing efforts? I know a lot of brands take on causes, whether it's something local or it's something global, be it sustainability or diversity and inclusion. What kinds of is this the first time, and do you think that you will support more?
No, it's not the first time. I think there are ongoing activities within the company. It's HR mostly doing that, and you would not find much information about it in the media, because it's not the thing we are proud of. It's just the thing we do. So I know that we're helping a kid with a cancer and some other activities which I cannot just out blue from my mind to tell you, because I don't remember, but there are various activities we support on. And yeah, if it is companies should not be a charity organizations. That's what I believe. It's just the things which sees the employees and all the founding team sees the things what matter. They need to strive for that. Because it boosts the morale of the employees. For us, this Ukraine stuff, we couldn't do anything for a full week. We are down there together with the Ukrainians, but with our minds mostly. So we just had to do something in order to relieve ourselves emotionally. So that's the thing we did. And I hope other organizations, and a lot of organizations did that. So you see how right now the Russian economy and situation is going, a lot of companies took a really strong decisions and positions to move over that market, which puts a lot of economical depth on strain on the company. But I really have that it happened because some people lays lives of theirs, and somebody just get a monetary problem. So I think life is much more matter than a buck.
Absolutely. Switching gears a bit, going back to crypto in general, some people are critical of crypto and saying maybe this is just a fad. What do you say to those people, and what do you think the future of crypto looks like?
It's hard to tell that it's fad. At the current stage of the evolution, after more than 10 years in existence, official of various countries are talking about it. So, and they're talking about regulation. And if they're talking about regulation, it's just a way of saying it that you support it, that it's like live existing thing which are going to be present in the future. All the things like in democratic world needs to be regularized just to know the playing rules, how to participate. So the regulations are happening. The crypto market is getting more and more stable. I think those market volatility things is things which like through one day the value of some crypto token can raise several hundred of times is over because they attract that much of the money, receive that much of the money, because and this market cap to be moved in that heights is no longer possible. So I think the market is maturing, and it's like it's going to stay here for a very long time. And there are more and more industries which yet haven't been touched by the blockchain technology, and they are going to be done. And overall, it's just crypto technology brought us some sort of movement, like it's not only about technology, but it's also about managerial level, that more and more organizations are thinking about decentralization, about the privacy of the customers, and giving the torch of decision into their hands. So these are the things where we're heading, and it's not fun, and it's not going to fizzle out. It's just going to be maturing and spreading through other industries.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As you mentioned, even with David from HP in the last session, who was talking about the importance of cybersecurity. Obviously, blockchain has huge potential for supporting, cybersecurity, which is obviously becoming a more important topic.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me what you are most excited about within the crypto industry, and something you are looking forward to as it evolves over the next year?
I don't know. I really like that approach, that something is complicated. Previously, I was working in a tobacco industry, so it gets me some of the relevancy of blockchain in the tobacco industry, that you have like limited tool set what you can do. And you really need to find that angle, how to do marketing and business in order to be successful. So crypto industry is also like super regulated, like consumers are hard to reach, but also there is huge hype on that. So these things combined, they put like huge rewarding things to work here. And I like that saying that once crypto for life, because it kind of feels that you're on a surfboard floating, because growth is limitless, and you just need to figure out the way how to do it. And if it's the beginning of the market, yet we are just in a early market stage at the moment. So cannot believe how the numbers will look of our company when we will reach that early majority or late majority.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to someone who's never used crypto before, and they're new and don't really know, like your grandmother, okay, I want to get into crypto. What would you say?
As at the beginning, just check some of the YouTube videos, and especially like educational YouTube videos. Don't follow those people who gives you like financial advices. Like there are many things what you can do with crypto without staking a lot of money. It's not only about gaining some monetary value out of it. You could play games. That's something interesting, Siem, and to play the games in a manner which you never done it before, right? So like, for example, we are used to get the finance and all the investment things going to the bank and maybe putting consulting with some financial advisor where to put what of the portfolio to put your money to what kind of stocks. And then crypto, and in the future, investing would be in sort of the game scenario where you log into the game platform. You do mission down there where you stake your tokens, you put your beans into the bowl and your beans grow, and those beans makes more beans, and it's like your actual money and returns of your investments. So I think the future world and future market will be just more interesting, more playful, will be less suits in the office, so be more, so to say, friendly and casual. So everything goes to that direction, that the consumer can do itself and engage in the boring things more interestingly.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting point. I look forward to watching the space.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. It was fascinating talking to you, and really looking forward to seeing where CoinGate goes over the next couple of years, and hope to have you back again.
Okay. Like, thank you for having me in this call. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
It was really fun to talk.
Thank you, Andreas.
Okay. Yeah, Diana.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
See you. Bye. Next up, we have Eliana Atia, who's brand and SEO content team lead at Monday.com, with moderator Douglas Cajas, VP of RTL Ad Connect. I know, like some of the crypto brands, Monday.com did their first Super Bowl ad this year, and would love to hear more about that after being on a budget, doing more YouTube videos, really shifting to a big media. So can't wait to hear from them about how their consumer engagement is shifting, and as well as their media. Hi, Eliana, welcome.
Hi, Diana, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Hello, Douglas, how are you?
Hello, Diana. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, to you. Yes.
Welcome. Well, I will let you two take it away. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Diana. Eliana, maybe you could just begin by introducing yourself. First of all, what is Monday, as well as your role there, and then I'll say a little bit about myself, and then we can get into the weeds, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Eliana. I'm the content team lead for the brand and the SEO team at Monday. Basically, Monday.com is a work OS, which enables kind of any organization to really build what we like to say their dream workflow. That's basically possible using our building blocks in our work OS, and that can be anything from integrations and apps. And those elements really come together to enable any organization to kind of work without limits and work however they want. So as I said, I lead the content team for the SEO and the brand. We'll dig into exactly what that means in a little bit, but that's kind of an overview.
Very cool. So my name is Douglas Cajas, and I started the US office of RTL Ad Connect, which is the media insights and solutions arm of the RTL group, which is Europe's largest media company, as well as the owner of Fremantle, which produces beloved shows such as, American Idol, X Factor, and the like. And our mission here is basically to help brands such as yourselves to navigate the complexity of the European landscape, and as well as, helping them make the most of, their marketing strategy and spend. So it's a pleasure to be here. I think Monday has had a really exciting journey. And I would love for us to start a little bit in the history and tell us a little bit about where Monday was a couple of years ago, because you've grown quite quickly in the last couple of years. Certainly the pandemic expedited that growth. So we'd love to hear where you were, the journey from just being a task management tool to really being now a platform that allows people to work without limits. So
yeah, definitely. So you laid it out perfectly for me to get started. So Monday, I think, especially as a brand, has had a really interesting kind of evolution over the past few years. It's hard to really distinguish the brand evolution from the product evolution, but I'll give it a try. Up until about 2020, we really identified ourselves as kind of a project management, task management tool. That's really how we entered into the market, and it's how we gained an incredible customer base, a really, really loyal customer base, and what I like to think of as pretty positive brand affinity. And it worked really well for us up until about that 2020 kind of period of time. And we got to a point where we sort of felt like our messaging wasn't really aligned with what our product was really able to do. We were still kind of calling ourselves a project management software. And at the same time, we had entire organizations running all of their workflows on Monday.com, from marketing departments to, dev teams running their weekly sprints. And our messaging wasn't really aligned with that. And that's when we really launched WorkOS as kind of a new category of software. And with that, I think we were really able to align where our product was and the product capabilities, and also kind of our vision for where, work software is going, with finally, what we were really communicating with our audience. So that's kind of the broad sort of evolution of where we had been and where we are. And I think that's also reflected in our brand tone. If you look at Monday ads from 5 years ago, it's a really different sort of personality and brand tone than where we are today. And I think that the brand, the tone, and the product evolution kind of all happened in parallel.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about, WorkOS, because I think this is something really unique to your space. So if you can, dive deep, dive a little bit deeper. What is WorkOS, currently, and where do you see it going? So that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we launched WorkOS, we launched obviously Monday.com as a WorkOS, but at the same time, we were building out this new category of software. And I think an easy way to kind of compare that is, if you look at CRM as a category of software, there's so many players in that field, and we really see the evolution of work and work software needing kind of its own category, where we're not necessarily creating specific kind of niche products for niche industries and departments. We need, as organizations, kind of one communal and shared place to do all of our work. I think, especially with the growth of hybrid work and, all of the kind of different phases of work that we've been in the past 2 years, it became clear that silos happen really quickly and really naturally in organizations, especially as you grow. It's hard to work as kind of one cohesive team. And I think having a shared platform, which is what we envision, a WorkOS to really be, helps kind of bridge that gap and really be that sort of connective tissue between all of the different departments, which at the end of the day, they do need to, share and work in one place.
Absolutely. In fact, yes, when we spoke, you had mentioned that in fact, the aim is to make it, the connective tissue of really within an organization.
Exactly. I really think that knowledge sharing within an organization, or at least having access to transparent information, is one of the major kind of keys to success. I think as your business grows, if the marketing department can kind of easily access, how the sales runs their workflows and the kind of feedback that they're getting from clients. And on the other hand, if sales can easily access, the product team's weekly iteration, and they can kind of get a sense for what they're working on, having that, exactly like you said, that connective tissue, which connects these different departments, can really be an expediter for innovation and for just building that company culture that I think a lot of people are after.
Sure. And as a matter of fact, you really got to experience that, firsthand, given that you joined just a little bit, if I remember, before the start of the pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit about, your personal experience with Monday, obviously? Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Little did I know what I was walking into, but I joined Monday February, and then we had about 1 month in the office, and then we went to completely remote work. Monday as an organization didn't really have much experience, like most of us, working remotely. It was kind of our first time around. And 1 month into the company, I was, working from my apartment in Tel Aviv, and I really, about 1 or 2 weeks into that experience, understood I could not imagine doing this without without Monday.com, the platform. I mean, it gave all of us one place to really come together, especially under so much uncertainty in general, kind of how we were all feeling during those first waves of the pandemic. We had a lot of new initiatives, whether it was creating content around remote work, it was creating new features in the platform to help make remote work more seamless for our customers. There were a lot of new projects and initiatives that we were trying to launch completely, scattered. And having that one sort of basis, even just, a simple Monday board that we could all go to and assign each other, action items and timelines, and really feel that we're on the same page, things aren't falling through the cracks, and that we had that shared mission. I couldn't have imagined doing that over, multiple kind of different tools and softwares, which I feel like is the case for a lot of organizations.
Right. As a matter of fact, because you are really building, really the work OS for the information worker on top of, the existing OS, you are looking to not just be, obviously you have your own products, but really you want to create an ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we have obviously, all kinds of kind of features and functionalities within our work OS, but I think it's really important to note that our goal is not to become every work software that there is. We really, as we mentioned earlier, the connective tissue element is really true, not only within our work OS, but we know that organizations rely on all kinds of different tools and softwares that they don't necessarily want to give up. So we really believe in that integration and kind of bringing not only teams and departments together, but also bringing in all of the different softwares and tools that they use. And I think that integration element really enables, entire organizations to align.
Very interesting. So let's talk about, these, your customers a little bit. Tell us about, about them. Who are they? Are these more small, mid-size, or larger enterprises? How is that evolving for you?
Yeah, definitely. So we have just over 150,000 customers right now, growing really at an incredible rate. And if we look back, to that kind of previous time, as I mentioned, around 2020, we were dealing with kind of a mix, a lot of small organizations doing incredible things, but smaller teams, some mid-market, and a few enterprises here and there. And with that shift of the messaging, we've really started to bring on more kind of enterprise clients as that time has passed. Of course, we have such a diverse mix, but if we're thinking kind of our real target market, sort of from the content perspective and the marketing perspective, we're usually looking at more of that mid-level manager. It's an interesting thing to think about and really define, because we like to direct our message to that mid-level manager, because they're probably working with a team themselves, but they're not disconnected from that day-to-day work. So chances are any sort of work platform or software that they're looking to bring on, they're also going to be hands-on in that software day-to-day themselves. So that's kind of where, when we're thinking about crafting our message and our brand, that's who we have in mind.
Yeah, interesting. In fact, I know. So it seems like it was, you might say a more bottoms-up approach, right? Really, and then, so how do you, tell us a little bit about how you create the Monday brand and how you move. And obviously, here we're talking, we're here to talk about engagement. How do you move someone along the entire funnel, if you will, and back again? How do you move this mid-level manager? And I'd love to hear a little bit about that. If you can kind of walk us through. I know you have a unique, marketing, operation, and obviously along with that, different strategy about your communication. So if you might be able to share a little insight.
Absolutely. So I think something really interesting to the Monday marketing approach is, as you mentioned, we started really bottom up. So we used to have most of our new clients would be signups. They were individuals that signed up, and let's say they were that mid-level manager, they would share it with their team, and then maybe their manager, that VP, would catch wind that they started using Monday, and it would kind of grow internally from an organization. And because that was our sort of business model and it was working pretty well, we didn't have a sales team up until a few years ago. So it was all self-serve, was all of our new business. And when we built out the amazing sales department that we have today, it really enabled us to kind of channel both of those flows. So not only, we still have daily signups coming in from self-serve, but at the same time, we're able to target those larger accounts through our sales team. So because of that, we have quite a few sort of marketing channels, and they don't always have their most obvious goals. So what do I mean by that? We have our YouTube channel, which internally we see as an acquisition channel. So the main goal is obviously bringing new clients, but it's not always that straightforward. A lot of our potential clients and our audience are reached for the first time through our YouTube channels. A lot of people know us from our YouTube advertisements. So it's important for us to kind of toe that line. Is it brand? Is it acquisition? And so we've kind of accepted that it should serve us in both elements. The main goal is still going to be new business and signups. So it's important for us to touch on certain elements of, the platform and the platform functionality. But at the same time, we don't want to compromise our brand message and our brand tone. So I think that's a really interesting example of how we've also evolved as a brand and kind of sought ways to sort of manage both of those different goals. We also have, of course, our brand marketing. So on the brand team, we cover anything, really, really brand awareness, high top of funnel activity that can be out of home campaigns. So we have international out of home campaigns, billboards, subway ads, etc. We have connected TV, so Hulu and the rest of those channels. We have podcast ads and audio ads, and more that I'm sure I'm forgetting to mention. But all of those really give us an opportunity to touch on that more vision kind of work OS future of work message that we think is also important.
Interesting. I know that you had mentioned to me that you want to have as close as possible to a one-to-one communication with new customers. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You were, sharing an example. For example, somebody's driving down, the highway,
right.
And, from the moment that they see a billboard, tell me, how does that? Can you kind of walk us through that flow of communication? And how you approach, as close as possible to one-to-one communication.
Absolutely. So I think this is a really, really interesting topic that we're at Monday internally just kind of starting to try to crack. But it's basically just a really unified and cohesive kind of brand message. And for an organization like Monday that, as we mentioned, has so many touch points, and we're just, growing kind of how that can look 360, making sure that we feel like the same voice and the same brand at every touch point with our customers or potential customers is huge for us. So in the brand awareness team, we're really starting to evaluate how that looks in connection to, the sales department. So if we're launching a new out of home campaign, let's say in San Francisco, we want to connect with the sales team that is reaching out to, our potential customers in San Francisco and let them know, this is our main message. This is the reasoning behind it. These are the creatives that we have on these highways. And in an ideal world, they can say, oh, I have a call with someone that I know his office is in this area of San Francisco. So he probably has seen this out of home campaign. And, they can even, let's say, join the Zoom call with a background of the image of the out of home campaign. Or if they're doing cold reach outs, include some imagery of that. And the idea is we want Monday.com to feel like one entity. We want that voice, that messaging to be really, really cohesive. And I think we're really lucky and we're in a good position internally that I think we have a really passionate group of people that all share that vision, and we're all in it kind of together. So in the internal conversations that I've had, when we talk about, this ideal kind of world, everyone is fired up. So I'm excited to see how that continues to grow.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So we touched on a little bit of, sort of the top upper level funnel brand elements. I was wondering if you might be able to dig a little bit deeper into the sort of SEO and SEM aspects of it, because those different touch points obviously bring consumers at a different, part of the journey, but also sometimes that instead of the billboard, that actually is the first touch point. Can you tell us a little bit about, hence, how do you approach developing, great content, relevant content for people in this channel?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of people, I get the question, okay, SEO and brand, like for a lot of people, they can seem like polar opposites, just in terms of how the content usually plays its role in both of those channels. But I like to argue that in a lot of ways, they're very different, but in a lot of ways, the role of content, especially in messaging and brand, is similar in both. So the thing about SEO, unless you're focusing on brand key terms, chances are this could be a person's first kind of touch point with your brand. If they're looking for marketing software or workflow software, and we just so happen to create content that's targeting that keyword, that could be the Yes. Did I break up for a second?
You did. Would you mind just repeating that? If we could rewind one sentence, if you will.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I saw that you froze and I was just hoping it was only on my end. For sure. So I was just saying that for a lot of people, SEO and brand can seem kind of disconnected, but unless you're targeting those brand keywords, oftentimes an SEO content can be a potential person's first interaction with your brand. So if someone is looking for workflow software for an enterprise company, they don't necessarily know anything about Monday. And if you're, hopefully doing your job in SEO, you could be on that first page or that first result. And this is really your time to not only tell them, obviously, in terms of SEO, that you've come to the right place and we indeed, do this workflow software. But it's also your time to show them who you are and what your voice and what your tone is. So for our SEO team, we're every quarter really taking a completely different approach. And I can say, for the last quarter, we targeted specifically template keywords. So we realized, we have such an ability to give an instant value to these searchers and to our audience. So many people daily are searching for, a way to kind of get started immediately, whether that's a content creation calendar template or, the options are endless. So we said, okay, let's focus on that as a strategy. And we're seeing incredible kind of intent already for those key terms. And it's really fun to be able to understand that from an internal perspective, we have the option to build out a template that can give this person immediate value and also really show them from a brand perspective, who we are and what we believe in.
That's a fantastic balance. It always is very tricky to be able to do both, really, to deliver, as you said, useful, valuable information and introduce the brand so that people know
exactly
this was delivered by Monday.com, and that is quite important to do. So that's very, very interesting. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about you've now become really you're based out of Israel, but in fact you are a global company. So as you've expanded, maybe you can tell us a little bit about a global approach that you take. Can you walk us a little bit through why it is important to have that kind of approach in general, but specifically in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've always kind of taken this global approach. A lot of Israeli companies, it's inherent. If you start in the States, it's easy to sort of stay focused on the States. But something I think that's always been interesting about fast growing Israeli startups is that you have that international mindset from the get-go, because we're in Israel and you have to be thinking about the States and different European countries. So we do have quite a few locations. I know I'm going to miss some, but we have our headquarters in Tel Aviv. We have about 200 or 300 people. I'm never keeping track in our New York office. We have an office in London, in Sydney, and many, many more, like I said, that I'm sure I'm missing. But I think having that international approach, you have to be kind of prepared internally to really take that on, because I'm sure you're familiar with this, but it's definitely not as simple as sort of translating your message. you need to really we have an internal localization team. And I think localization is the perfect term to describe that, because a perfect example is, our tagline right now is work without limits. Mm-hmm. And that's also the message that we took forward in our Super Bowl ad. And to us, that means with full flexibility of a software, the power is really in the consumer's hands. And, we don't think that anyone knows how you want to work better than you. And with that full flexibility, there is no limit to what you can achieve. That's what we mean by work without limits. Mm. And the woman on our localization team that manages Portuguese said, that message does not translate well. And so it's amazing to have that team internally that understands the value and what we really mean in our taglines, what the message essentially is, and to be able to take that on and really localize it to a T, so our message is still being portrayed. So I think that that's a really crucial element to how we approach kind of the globalized marketing.
Yeah, indeed. As a matter of fact, I remember the Portuguese example is kind of unique, right? It was really kind of getting the wrong message across, correct?
Right.
Making a one-to-one translation of the tagline, no?
Yeah, exactly. She said, this makes it seem like we want people to work all the time. And we said, that's definitely not what we mean. And of course she took it and ran with it and made it amazing.
Fantastic. That's very, very cool. So tell me, obviously people, Diana mentioned, and you just also made a reference to the Super Bowl ad. Tell us, why was now the right moment, and walk us through kind of what did you have to do in order to make that happen? I understand it came together incredibly fast.
Yes.
So please tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, as we've been talking about the evolution of the brand, this was really sort of the pinnacle of that. As I mentioned, a lot of people kind of knew us always with our YouTube ads, and that's how we were able to create this really strong brand voice. And as our brand evolved, as did really the channels, especially the video channels that we're kind of dabbling in. And the Super Bowl kind of came to us this year, and we really decided that in terms of a brand, we're ready to take this on. And I think Monday being such a data-focused organization, everything we do, it's important to us to really be able to measure it. Yes. And one of the reasons why we haven't done it so far is it's purely brand awareness. We weren't expecting any kind of immediate results, maybe, a spike in website visits or something like that. But we definitely weren't expecting a bunch of people to go and sign up for Monday.com. And that also wasn't, the goal of the ad. So I think we had a process to really understand and value pure brand awareness activity. Yeah. And once we kind of understood that and we were comfortable taking this on, we knew it was really the right moment for us. And yeah, I think it's going to be a long process of really gathering and understanding the implications and the impact that the ad has had. But I can say just so far, we've been able to glean some insights from sales calls and customer success calls, and the reaction was really, really positive. I think people actually connected with our message, and they said, anything from, we had heard of Monday.com and then we saw your Super Bowl ad, and so we said, it's finally time to try. All the way from that message to kind of, I had never really heard of Monday, but I loved your ad, so I said, why not? I'll reach out to you guys. And I think those are the first sort of seeds that indicate, that it was a great opportunity for us to take.
Yeah, I know we talked about how, the challenge, if you will, that exists is around attribution, right? This is always particularly, how do you value brand activity? And it takes, as you so rightly pointed out, it takes a little while before you can really appropriately assess the entire benefit and that you're still reaping. Right.
It takes time, definitely. And I think it also takes a bit of a creative approach, with something like PPC campaigns, exactly the path more or less. And you have a certain level of confidence in saying, this is the ROI of this channel, and I can attribute X lead to X campaign. But with brand awareness, I think there's two elements. One is that you pretty much get one shot. So there's no such thing as A/B testing a Super Bowl ad.
No.
So it's really hard to understand even not only what the impact was, but why. If we can say, wow, it performed amazingly, would it have performed differently with a slightly different message, or all of the things that a marketing team like us that's so A/B test and data driven, we could just keep ourselves awake at night. But I think it takes a bit of creativity as well. And we spoke about this also earlier, that it's familiar terrain and challenge also for any content marketers. I think content is similar, that it's not always so easy to pin down, what the ROI of a piece of content was, or what the impact of it was and why. So we've been able to sort of find creative approaches to that in the meantime.
All right, very, very good. So we are basically, kicking off the almost the second quarter here in 2022. So tell us a little bit about, what kind of other opportunities, what are you looking to accomplish, this year for you, the organization, and also your team specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most exciting directions that we're headed is becoming a bit more, productizing and becoming a bit more focused in the target audiences that we're speaking to. So part of the Work OS and that message of, ownership and autonomy and flexibility that we offer any user and really any information worker. We tell them, any workflow for any team, you can accomplish anything, and the sky is the limit. And it's true, and it's a really valuable and I think empowering message. But what I'm really excited to explore sort of in this next quarter is focusing that message a little bit more. And this aligns also with initiatives that we have going on in the product, but building out some more industry specific sort of use cases and functionalities in the product, so that way we're able to target specific kind of users with our message, and also where we meet them and what we say to them and what we offer them. And I think that, going deeper, both product-wise, branding and messaging, it just kind of re-inspires you, and you realize, how much untapped potential you have left. And I think that process of going deeper and deeper can just go on forever. So that's what I'm really excited about.
And it sounds like you also have really an internal culture that focuses really on allowing you to test things as well. Can you tell me, a little bit about that, the Monday culture?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of my many favorite things about the culture at Monday. It's something that we call perfection through iteration. And basically what that means is that there is an internal, not only acceptance, but expectation that we don't kind of go in a corner and work on a project until it's absolutely perfect and then launch it. Because oftentimes it's perfect maybe in our eyes, but there's no way to really anticipate or predict kind of what the consumer reaction will be. And it also, leads to a bunch of other kind of more cultural effects. It can make you feel disappointed that it didn't work out exactly the way you wanted, or there can be a lot of kind of conflicts there. So this idea of perfection through iteration really means if we have an idea and we believe in it, and there's, some sort of indication that, we think it's worth trying, let's go ahead and get started. And even if that first product or that first, channel, the first audio ad, anything that we deliver, even if it's, 70% there, great. At least we kind of put it out there to the public. Now we're receiving tons of feedback, at least now we have something to work with, and the next one will only continue to improve. And that's really a culture that, I've been at Monday a bit over 2 years. And I think it's part of the reason why we're able to really execute so quickly. And it's also part of the reason why I think internally, so many people have this real feeling of ownership, because they're not afraid to make mistakes. And feedback is not only accepted, but something that you kind of start to crave. And this idea of everything is an iteration is an amazing aspect.
Fantastic. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I can see why, you guys have been able to, grow so quickly. There's it allows really, there's truly an entrepreneurial spirit, it sounds like, really within the entire organization. So that's great. That's all the questions I have for the moment. I don't know if we have any questions from the audience, perhaps.
I don't see any, hi guys, any questions from the audience, but I have a question.
Sure.
As people return to the workplace, some companies are going, still work from home, others are doing hybrid models. Like, how does that impact how they're using Monday?
Yeah, so I think that in general, kind of everyone is adopting this really flexible sort of way of work. And what we've understood through the pandemic, and we've kind of understood that you need the centralized place to work. So I think whether you're in the office or you're remote or hybrid, having a physical kind of platform that you can share and upload and communicate openly in one place, I think it's a necessity regardless, because this flexibility is now sort of woven into work culture. Even if, most of the time you're in the office, I think people are beginning to really accept that, if someone needs to work remotely or whatever it may be, you need to have a centralized place, because turning around and tapping someone on the shoulder isn't, I don't know if it's ever really going to be the baseline anymore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. I really enjoyed the presentation. And thank you to all of our listeners and audience members who have tuned in, and to our sponsors, and to all of today's speakers. It was really great having you all here, and wish you all a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana, Eliana, likewise.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. This will be up on our website, on our YouTube page, and check out our other live casts that we have coming up soon. All the best. Bye.